Hello everyone, my name is Kirby G with Kirby G's Points and Miles. Just want to kick off a new series where I make some short videos discussing credit card philosophy. And specifically in this video, I want to talk about how for the average American, credit cards lead to increased spend. So first off, I do want to preface that I love acquiring credit card points. It's a lot of fun seeing those balances go up and redeeming them for great vacations. Always want to think about, what is the point of acquiring points and miles? Why do I open up more credit cards? Specifically, is it because I want to travel for free? I like to put free in quotation marks because that's never really true. But when you redeem a bunch of IHG points for a nice 4-night stay, getting that fourth night free with the IHG card, it feels great. Your bank account didn't change. Maybe you don't think about all the money you had to spend to get the welcome offer that allowed you to take that vacation, but it just feels good to have experiences that you've never had before. For me personally, I would have never gone to the Virgin Islands if my Delta Reserve card didn't give me a companion pass and I had a friend that wanted to go with me. Got to save some money, really discount that trip. I probably wouldn't have wanted to pay full price if it wasn't a credit card involved. Is it to discount a trip you were already going to do? I really knew I wanted to go to Europe in last November, and I probably would have gone even if I didn't have any credit card points. It was pretty nice that my flight was basically free after little taxes and fees I had to pay with my Delta miles that I had. I would have paid full price for that flight because that was just a trip I decided I was going to take. I had the budget for it, but it was nice to discount that trip a little bit. Or is it because you're a credit card points hoarder? You all know who you are. Sometimes you love seeing those numbers go up and you really have a hard time spending them. Bigger number, better person, as they say. Another thing I like to ask people is, do you have any plans to use the points and miles that you are acquiring? Is there any upcoming travel that you're going to take? So, hey, and I'm going to flying Delta, may as well acquire a few Delta points. Or, hey, I'm going to be staying at some Hyatt hotels. Maybe I need to acquire some Chase points so that I can then transfer them over to Hyatt. Are you planning a mega redemption that'll cost billions of points and you need to be flexible so you just have to acquire all the points? That's definitely a strategy. Or are you replenishing your balances after you've recently redeemed a lot of points? You know that you historically always spend, Amex membership rewards points, so it doesn't really matter that you don't have something upcoming. You need to replenish your balance. There's a lot of different ways you can attack the credit card game, and you just want everyone to be kind of aware of where they currently are. This directly leads me into my main thesis for the video, that it's almost impossible to beat the bank here. I have a nice little graph here on the side. It's a little bit outdated, but I couldn't find one that's a little bit better. But this goes over the credit card debt for the United States in the year 2008. You see that number on the right says $972 billion, and then you'll see it one of the bullet points. It's currently roughly, for all the latest updates, $1.18 trillion at the time of making this video. You can also see if one of your cities there, you can see the highest credit card debt in all of America back in 2008, which definitely was a different time with the whole housing crisis going on. But I just really want to highlight that people with credit cards, on average, spend more money. They make larger purchases overall, they make more impulsive purchases, and again, that leads to them spending more money overall. Some studies have even linked credit card spending to the same reactions people get in a casino. Now, I have a foot in both worlds. I do love playing some blackjack and Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and I know how high the adrenaline run can be when you're playing well and how terrible it feels when you're doing poorly. So to have credit card spend and casinos in the same sentence might make some people a little bit wary. I also want to highlight that all of the sources I used for this video will be in the comments below. I did have a little bit of problem finding resources that were free for people to use. I really like to use the direct source itself, but sometimes I had to find a couple different websites where there are articles about the study versus the study itself. So I do have 3 main links that I do believe should be free and access to everyone. But as I always say, do your own research if you want to find some more specific information. Here I just want to give kind of a little bit more of a generalized review. So overall, even if you think you're beating the bank, you might need to second guess yourself. So one of the things I do also want to highlight in this video is that points and miles and credit card spend directly lead to psychological reactions within our brain. Now, as you see this photo on the left, I just found the highest resolution photo I could find of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And as a former psychology major from the University of Minnesota, I got my Bachelor of Science there. Maslow is not the end-all be-all of psychology. There's definitely some issues with this little pyramid here, but I do think it's a great starting point. So at the very bottom, you'll have the most important needs first. People need these before they can move on to the next hierarchy of need. So start off, they have that physiological need. Can you eat? Do you have a place to lay your head at night? Do you have clothes that you can wear? Once those needs are met, you can move up to the next tier. Are you safe? Is that head where you lay your head at night safe? Is the food that you're eating not going to poison you? Are you overall in a safe place? Next, there's that love and belonging. Do you have friends and family that care about you? Does your life have purpose? Things like that. Next, there's that level of self-esteem. Are you doing things that make you happy? Are you involved in your community? What gets you out of bed at night? Then once you meet those needs, and once you hit that esteem level, you might finally come into self-actualization, which means does your life fulfill you? Is that purpose that you have in your life being met? Are you doing everything that you can do as a person? Now, that's a very high level of all these things, and I don't want to get too deep into it. If you want to have a talk about psychology offline, would love to have that with everyone. But I do kind of want to relate to where credit card spend comes along with this. I do think that it does come at that higher level of esteem, where when you spend money on your credit card and you get those points and miles, it can just make you feel invigorated. And there might be some people who are out there laughing and saying, Kirby, it's not that deep. And most of the time it's not. But I have seen people on Reddit or on Discord servers brag about how many points they have and how they're always able to travel for free, and they're really looking for that self-esteem validation. A lot of that comes from their credit card spend. So that's just something people might need to, again, take a deeper look into. This leads me into my next point, where I want to talk about the switch from a cashless to cardless society. Studies have shown that the more connected you are to your pay, the less likely you are to spend money overall. So I want to think back to how paychecks used to be distributed. You used to receive a paper pay stub that would show you all of your information, how much money you're making, how much taxes are coming out. And when people are able to see that number directly on all those line items, it triggers something in your brain psychologically that leads to you being more conscious about how much money you have and where it's going. Versus now, all pay stubs for the most part are electronic. You just see the money go into your bank account. Most people don't pay attention to how much am I contributing to my 401k, what tax rate am I being taxed at, where are all my benefits coming out of. People don't think about that anymore. And so now that we have direct deposit, kind of masking a little bit of that, people have started to spend more money. Now, I think direct deposit is a good thing overall. I do think that it's very convenient to not have to cash in a paper check every month. But there's just the way time progresses and the way technology progresses. These are things that we need to be taken into account. I also want to talk about not just switching from cash to cards, but from switching from cards to phone. I always say that we went from tap to pay to Apple Pay very quickly. And research shows that people spent 10% more money on average when using a different technique to pay. That was an increase specifically from paying with a credit card versus paying with Apple Pay. Now, this is not saying that every single person is spending 10% more money. There are some people who are very cognizant about every single dollar they spend. Some people don't care, they never think about it, and there's some people in the middle. So when I'm talking about these generalizations, I do want to reference specific studies here, and like I said previously, I do have a couple links here in the description, and I might add some more that I already currently have just for people to peruse, and hopefully everyone has free access to them. If not, like I said, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll find a way to get you some of this information. But I want everyone to truly think, how much more money have you spent now that you use Apple Pay as your main form of payment? Some credit cards give you extra rewards for using Apple Pay. I want to think about the previously now discontinued Altitude Bank Reserve from the US Bank. They give you extra points when you pay with Apple Pay. There's a reason that they're doing that. It's not because they want to be convenient. It's because they know you'll spend more money if you use Apple Pay. They have those studies way before the public does. Again, I just want to reiterate the main thesis of this video is that the banks are not your friend. Just because you have a great relationship with Amex over the last 20 years does not mean that they actually care about you. I'm sure customer service people tend to be nice to you, and they definitely would like you to continue to be a customer for most parts. Again, they're a large corporation who are trying to maximize their profit. And in turn, as a customer, we should be able to do our best to squeeze every bit of benefit and every single trick we can use to, legally and within the terms of service, try to beat them the best that we can. These banks would not be giving us tens and thousands of points for sign-up bonuses if they did not win in the long run. Yeah, sometimes if there's a nice, 60,000 point bonus, you might just try to spend some money on that card, never use it again, get your points and leave. And yeah, sometimes that might work. But in the long run, they're just waiting for one time for someone to, oops, I forgot to pay my credit card. Oh, I didn't set up auto pay. What am I doing? Or, I wasn't going to buy that, but I want to treat myself. Tap. They're just waiting for that. So you might think you are beating these banks. Trust me, in the long run, you're not. And as a casino player myself, you may think you're coming out ahead, but in the end, the house always wins. Someone has to win the jackpot, but for 99% of the people, the house always wins. So finally, beating the bank. I can't give you tips on how to win, but I just want to give a few tips on how you can not lose to the bank. Specifically, one, budget. I don't mean going over every single purchase you make every month, figuring out everything to the last dollar, but just take a second look at how much money do I make, how much money is going out, how much money am I saving, and how much money am I investing. We want to play a long-term game here. Now, I want to talk about retirement accounts in the future. That might be a little outside the scope of this channel and this video, but there are some great resources out there if you have questions. Next, never accrue interest on your credit card. Sometimes people will like to throw out the excuse of, hey, life happens sometimes. I have a little bit of a balance right now, but that's okay. And yeah, like I said, life happens. People get laid off from jobs. But if you are accruing interest on your credit card, you have already lost. You might get a 2% return on spend, or maybe sometimes 4% return on spend by using certain credit cards. But I want to say the average APR right now is probably around 27% if I had to guess, and 27, much larger than 4. Next, I want to say, do not spend more money just to hit a sign-up bonus. A lot of credit card companies right now are increasing their spend to hit sign-up bonuses. I would say a pretty common trend was $4,000 of spend in 3 months to hit around 70,000 points. You saw that around a bunch of different cards, and slowly but surely I'm starting to see $5,000 over the course of 3 months. Well, for some people, that amount of spend is very normal, but for maybe someone like myself or people who have lower spend, I might have to kind of stretch out $5,000 over 3 months. Like, I might have to buy, maybe an extra microphone here or a better camera. I was going to upgrade that anyway, so I may as well buy it now to hit this sign-up bonus. If you're on that boat, you've already lost. Which kind of directly leads into my next point is think before you spend. I'm not saying it's not a bad thing to buy yourself something or treat yourself in an impulse purchase every once in a while, but you know who you are if you're the kind of person that always has an Amazon package coming to the door or spending extra money on DoorDash when they could have just gone through the drive-thru themselves. And I said, I'm not going to judge anyone. I definitely enjoy using my DoorDash credit on my Chase Sapphire Preferred, but you really want to think to yourself, is this purchase necessary? What is the cost-benefit analysis of my convenience versus spending extra money? And that might be a little bit too nerdy of a way of saying it, but if you are impulse buying all the time just to hit a sign-up bonus or just because you want credit card points, you've already lost. I'd also say have accounts with multiple banks. I definitely don't suggest people put all of their money in one bank account. This may be a little separate from banking itself, but I always like to have 2 main bank accounts just in case something happens with one gets frozen, there's any fraud checks. Protect yourself by having some money in multiple bank accounts. And then next, be aware of the psychological effects banks have on us. Think about, why are they offering so many points for this credit card sign-up bonus? Why are they encouraging me to use tap to pay? I'm not saying these banks are evil or disgusting corporations because they're doing these things. At the end of the day, they're just trying to increase their profits, and you might have a problem with that, but just need to be aware of the fact that, hey, like I said, banks are not your friend. It's gonna be really hard for you to beat them, if not impossible. And then finally, don't just open a new credit card for fun. Have a good plan for it. If you know that you're going to have a large purchase or a large home repair or a car repair, you may as well open up a new credit card to maximize that spend. But if you're just opening up credit cards just because you think they're cool, or just because you want to flex on your friends, or because you think the Amex Platinum card looks cool, you've already lost. All right, everyone, I just want to thank you all for watching this video. I do know I kind of gave a little bit of a higher level look at credit cards and the psychological and philosophical impacts that these banks have on us. But I did, as a first episode, I really kind of wanted to, like I said, give that high level and dig into some of these topics more, and maybe specifically look at some of these studies, to show how the banks always win. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a like, comment, subscribe. Would love to hear your thoughts. If there's a specific part of this video that you want me to dive into next, feel free to let me know. I'm kind of open. I'm not sure exactly where I want to take this next, just because I have so many ideas. But if I see a few comments saying that you want me to go down X over Y, would love to accommodate that. So like I said, if you really enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe. Have a great rest of your day.